What is up, everybody? Welcome back. My name is Mo.
And my name is Casey.
And you're watching Better Benefield. Let's get into it.
My melanin shine like miles of diamonds, coastlines and islands when the sunrise. My melanin shine, no doubt about it. Can't go without it, babe. Can't you see? Black is beautiful, magic things. I want you to know.
Okay, so we have been No Apologies, the podcast for the past couple of months. But we're just jumping back into the visual. I don't know if we're going to keep doing it or if this is just a one-stop shop. But we just wanted to get everybody abreast on everything that's going on, as well as a few tidbits of information that we have come across.
Okay, so we're for those that have been keeping up with the podcast, we're on Enlightening in the Mind, the radio show. But I was on the breakdown with Gregory Hoyt speaking about slavery and the roots and heritage of Black Americans. And my position was that even though every person here was not a slave from Africa, and that's my position. So recently, we had a pretty good discussion about how 5th and 6th generation Americans, Black Americans, family members don't speak African, don't speak any other language for that matter, have no accents, and it was going back and forth where people were saying, well, they beat that language out of us. They oppressed us to the point where we didn't talk about it. And I was like, well, that doesn't completely make sense because we didn't pass down any words, even though we passed down slave traditions, such as things like jumping the broom. Well, recently, Wifey got some DNA evidence back that leads credence to the argument, along with speaking to her mother, hi Mama. We've discovered that her fifth generation removed,
Yes,
grandfather doesn't have an African name. He was born in the 1700s in America.
So when we originally started Better Benefield, we both did an ancestry swap. Not only were we engaged to be married, so we wanted to make sure we weren't kids and cousins, but also just to do a research background on who we are, what we are, and where we came from. And of course, we brought up the genealogy where they said we were both from Nigeria, and then 14% of my DNA was from Cameroon. But also, in my family has a reunion every year on my mother's side, the Phillips, and they have a lineage. And one of my great grandfathers, Elias Phillips, he is actually full-blooded Cherokee Indian, and I'll put the picture here. Just so you could look at it. And as we were doing our DNA, I also brought up that I have a half sister as well as some other cousins from different backgrounds. Another thing that my mom brought to my attention was the last name France. So part of my lineage fought in the French War, and all of them started marrying Italians and people from Europe. So a lot of my bloodline is from Europe as well. But the craziest thing is my oldest ancestor, which is my 6th generation great grandmother, her name is Matilda Penelope Edison.
So let's just let's unpack, because that was a lot of information.
Yes.
So let's unpack this. Shout out to our cousin Omar.
Yes. Hi, Omar.
This explains why free-thinking Black men in this country are free thinkers, because they were never slaves. My argument has always been that we're the original Native Americans. The story that we're taught in school doesn't make sense. Columbus found America, and when he got here, he encountered the Native Americans, which they call Indians, because he thought he was found India. There were no Black people here. So the white man, the Pilgrims who got into it with the Indians, got on a boat and said, let's go to Africa and start grabbing some slaves. That doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense that Memphis, Tennessee is named after Memphis, Egypt, and has the 3rd largest pyramid on the shores of the Mississippi River, which would be the Nile River in Egypt. That doesn't make sense. Why would the oppressor allow the oppressed to decorate? I believe that the Africans that came here first came as explorers, not slaves. I believe that they were already here, and like evidence from one of the co-hosts on the radio show on Stacey Royale, his family received reparations because in Jacksonville, Florida, because of their lineage to the natives that were already here. Same happened with Monet's family. Her mother pointed that out, that her family we were already here. So the reparations in the land that was allocated to these people was not a payment, but actually a reimbursement, like giving them back what they already had. That's why we were so good at sharecropping. We were already here sharecropping. Now, I know before anybody gets in the comments and comes with silliness, know that I understand the slave trade is real. Yes. They did go to Africa and get slaves, but the reason they went to Africa to get slaves is because of the work that the African settlers that were already here were doing.
And another thing that I truly believe, because I think, though your argument is valid, a lot of things that we remiss is the fact that Pangea existed.
Yes.
Before the plate shifted and there were different countries, everything was one large landmass.
That's why people think the world is flat.
That too. And also, you have to realize, yes, there were settlements, yes, there were empires, but you have to realize there were some portions of these people that were nomadic.
Right.
Now, if you look at the Bible with the Tower of Babel, when they broke down in different languages, a lot of people just moved away, just started picking up and moving. That's why you have so many different plants that were transplanted from different areas, because they were bringing the seeds.
Shout out to my cousin Lamar and my his son LJ Peterman, who's doing great work in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yes.
They know the Benefield lineage. Our family does not have any slave blood either. Mm-hmm. The Benefields are from France. Our name is French. Yes. Benefield's a French name. So when we started digging, to my mother's credit, shout out mommy, they found out that our family came from France to America as settlers, not slaves. Everyone is from Africa because that's where the first man was found, and we know that that's where the Garden of Eden is. So yes. When you trace your roots back and say, okay, I'm from Nigeria, that's West Africa. There's a couple people, Carol Perry, who on Facebook we had a really good conversation with. She was saying that the Gully language and how West Africa is where most people are from. My homegirl Bree pointed out that her family, she was born and raised in West Africa. The language was beat out of her people, West Africans, but her mother and father both speak 5 different languages and their native dialect. Mm. So there's credence to the fact that a lot of people were oppressed and the language was gone. But you cannot ignore that there were free-thinking men and free people here that look like us. That doesn't sound right.
Well, on the other spectrum, I want to look at tangible evidence that we have first of all, the Black culture itself. Mm-hmm. It's not only a melting pot of different rituals, traditions, and generational things, but there's so much of it that it doesn't make sense for us to say, oh, I'm African American. No, you're a true blood American because we were the natives. Because if we had there's no way I could trace back to my 6th great grandmother, and her name is Matilda Penelope Edison.
She would have been a slave. So if what we're hearing is true, so let's say slaves showed up on the shores here 1619. Mm-hmm. In 1619, your great grandmother would have either been on her way to be born, or was already born, or was already here, because she does not have an African slave name. We all know the story of Kunta Kinte and Toby. We know that those things are true based on what Alex Haley's research has proven, but we also cannot ignore that we were already here.
Not only that, when people say, oh, that's their slave name, they forgot their original name. Why don't we have any type of bilingual names? Even though you can translate your name to something else in a different language, why aren't we still, once we were freed, why didn't grandma or whoever rename us? Or why aren't our nicknames anything different? We got Pookie, Ray Ray, Pig. We both have cousins named Pigs on our sides of the family. But
two different cousins.
Two different generations.
Junebug.
Yes.
Shout out to
I have 2 cousins named Junebug.
That's what I'm saying. And my brother, his name Junebug. Lamar, Junebug,
And that came from a folklore hopping like a June bug,
So-
which is in the South.
Exactly. So let me say it like this. Small things like Baba. Baba means father. We didn't pass any of that down from slavery.
But
No
we could
evidence.
greens, black eye, any green and a black eyed pea on New Year's is to bring in the blessings.
Right.
Cornbread or corn to bring in money. We have those traditions, but we don't have like, why isn't Kwanzaa celebrated or some type of other Christmas or resurrection?
Well, because if the only way you can keep a people oppressed is to show them being oppressed. So if you tell that the Black Americans here that all of you guys are not from slavery, some of you guys were actually already here, and you built several things to contribute to the building of this nation. If you put that out there, then you have a person with a sense of pride. Like, hey, my family wasn't slaves.
Yeah.
We may have been oppressed, but we weren't slaves. Our family, the sharecroppers have so when they freed the slaves, white people will either hire you to do a job that they can do or hire you to do a job that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
So even these people willing to die, a lot of people died in the Civil War behind the freeing of the slaves because somebody had to pick that cotton. The sharecroppers were so good at this that even when they were free, they went back and brokered a deal saying, okay, listen, I will continue to tend to the fields, but you just pay me this amount of money. This led to prison camps where they could still get free labor because it had to be done. So it doesn't make sense to me that a race of people that had never picked cotton in their native country got here and were so good at it. And a person who didn't speak their language and beat the language out of them was able to explain to them, this is how you pick cotton and this is what needs to be done if they didn't know how to do it.
Well, I don't want to say never pick cotton. I don't believe they did it at such a mass. I believe because you can grow cotton in Africa, but it's not like one of the primary.
Not in West Africa. I'm gonna look it up to make sure, but not where our roots are coming from West Africa. I don't believe, and if I'm wrong, somebody in the comments please let me know.
Yeah.
But I believe that cotton picking was more central and
It
East
was
Africa.
more so of a resource versus way of life.
Right. It was a way of life here. Like
Yeah.
that was a
Well, for every American dollar that's ever printed, I believe 1 to 10 cents should go to black people.
that's what I'm saying. Like this
Because
is
money is not made of paper; it's
it's
made
not.
of cotton.
It's made of cotton.
That's why you can wash it.
So that's exactly that's my point. So the resource itself, cotton, was only rivaled by hemp to the point where they made weed a class 2 felony because of the hemp source. And that was only because it was in direct conflict with the cotton. That's how we
It made
became,
it less profitable.
exactly. So they had to get rid of that. That's why they got rid of it. So make no mistake about it. I believe that cotton picking was used in Africa, but it wasn't prevalent like in the United States. And somebody had to teach people here to do something that they had never done over there.
Well, what I want to do is I want to challenge every listener, whoever you share this with, whoever you have this conversation with, to not only do your DNA, even if you buy the Ancestry kit, and I'm going to reach out to Ancestry.com myself to see if we can do a promo code or something, because it is a bit expensive, but finding out who you're from. When I say who you're from is finding out my 6th generation great grandmother's name.
Girl, it is your fifth great grandmother.
Meant a lot to me. And my thing is, regardless if you're adopted, regardless if you know your immediate family, you come from a large family, it does not hurt to know all these names, because a lot of the names were repetitive. James, John, I believe Catherine. Catherine was my grandmother's name, but I have 2 other great ancestors
And that's
whose
European.
name is Catherine.
That name can't. And here's something that I think is very, very telling. So our cousin Omar Abdullah, I love Omar. When Omar goes on Ancestry DNA, the way we're gonna be able to prove that if this is accurate information, his first or second hit should be you.
Actually, I matched with my first cousin on my mother's side, my cousin Twyla. She did her DNA. I didn't even know she did hers. Like I said, my half sister Taryn didn't know she did hers.
So that means that Twyla knows now that her great grandfather. That's what I'm saying.
Is Matilda
Is Matilda-
Penelope
So
Edison.
that's what I'm saying. So Twyla knows this. So when Omar does this, Omar is going to look at this because I wanted to call you last night, bro. Omar is going to look at this in a full, clear view as to why he's a free-thinking black man.
It can be genetic.
It is.
Your thought process is absolutely genetic.
This is why they continuously show you oppression. They have to convince you first that you're oppressed. If they show you free, you will be a free thinker. Omar is far from some step and fetch, soft shoe, oppressed thinking man. He challenges everything. He and I have some of the conversations that he and I have are tantamount to if we can get a bullhorn to tell others because it is that deep. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we talk for hours on about sometimes we call each other from work, like just to share an idea. So there's no way that when Omar finds out, like, hey, here is my great grandmother, and she wasn't no slave.
Mm-mm. And then I know when people start saying, "Oh, the last name Edison," it's already controversial that he was a black man to begin with.
That's a fact
from history.
They already said that. That's
so my biggest thing is this: you can't sit here. For all you know, that was his sister or his cousin. So for people, I know because for every pro there is a con, and people are going to question the cons. Like, what if this was a slave name? What if this? What if that? My thing is this: just how there were slaves, there were free people, and people saying the last name Freeman, Freedom, those last names, they may come from that. I'm not sure, but that's why I feel like it's so important to get yourself acquainted with your lineage, so we can debunk a lot of this false information.
I don't believe any of that. I believe it's just like when they show that picture of the little skinny white Jesus. This dude was a carpenter. He was not trying to.
And if you ever did any type of manual labor,
he was a man's man. Like he would have been strong. He had to carry that cross by himself. And you want me to believe that little bitty skinny dude with the blue eyes, that's who Jesus was, and he never had his hand. So if they lied about Jesus, I'm quite sure they didn't tell the truth about Kunta Kinte. I ain't buying it.
And that's the thing. I also challenge you to think: why do they keep remaking slave movies? Like, we're watching the series Kindred, where she's we're still new to it, so she's jumping into like slave times. Why is it that? And when they depict Egypt, everyone's palm colored.
Yeah.
I mean, what was life before slavery? Like that in between stage, because you either have Egypt or you have slavery. What happened in between?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense.
And it's not the Amistad.
Okay, so listen. The weaker race of people, which is supposed to be quote unquote the black man, because they were weaker because they got enslaved. Mm-hmm. The white man needed the weaker race of people to kill off the Native Americans, was to be stronger. Mm-hmm. That's the Buffalo Soldiers. How did the weak people kill the strong people? Because you couldn't do it yourself. We had to chase them back to the reservation. Mm-hmm. My problem with this is, it was us. It was a stronger version of us beating up on us. Your family picture, the picture you guys see right here. Please put it up again.
Okay.
This picture is of a Native American. So, forget what Brother Benefield is saying. If this is a Native American, how could that not be a Native American too?
Why am I African American?
How could that be possible?
And my lineage has nothing to do with
it. But Native American. Native means from here. So you can no longer. First of all, the term African American is silly to me because it's two continents. It's not even a country. Like people, Asian American, no, they're from Chinese. You're a Chinese American. Mm-hmm. Ireland, you're Irish American. Why on earth would we be something different? African American, two continents, not South America or North America, just a continent. That makes no sense. But when you tell me that free people that look like us was on the shores of this country in the 1700s, when you say that we didn't get here till 1619 with slavery, and slavery wasn't abolished in 1865, that doesn't make sense.
Well, look at this. They say Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492.
Facts. And that's the story they tell.
Yeah. And for us, not to get here to the 1700s, what was in that gap?
I don't know.
Because I'm pretty sure it didn't take 100 and something years for disease to ravage the Native Americans.
My homegirl Bree, shout out to Bree. She summed it up. She said that not only does she know for a fact that oppressors have beaten the language out of the oppressed, but she was clear to let me know, hey, they're Africans that got here, sailed here as explorers, not as slaves.
And that makes more sense because there's no way. First of all, if you go back to the name chemistry comes from the Kemet people of Egypt. They created astrology. They were the ones to understand
All
the
science and
stars.
math.
And to be able to sail from one place to another and return, you have to be a skilled sailor. My thing is this: if Christopher Columbus went to India, went back home, and found America, he didn't know where he was going.
And he named them Indians because he thought he was in India. That makes no sense. And like I said, leave it in the comments, but we're only asking you to think. We're
That's
not
it.
telling you what to think. We're only asking you to ask yourself, does it make sense that if you trace a Mexican American back 4 generations, you're going to get to a person in their family that either A, has an accent, or B, only speaks Spanish.
Right.
That's going to happen. That's
And
what,
you don't have to go far.
you don't have to go far. You can do the same thing up in New England, the Boston area. You can find an Italian or an Irishman. You're going to find it. Why is it that when it comes to us, there is none of that? None of it. There's not an African name 6 generations back. Like, when we saw the DNA, Monet has ancestors that we know were born in the 1700s. And they got names that are, I'm not trying to sound right, Lily White, Matilda.
Penelope.
Come on, man.
Matilda Penelope.
That doesn't sound African to me.
First of all, this is the most beautiful name I've ever heard.
It is
But-
beautiful. It is a beautiful name. That's what I'm saying. But that's still part of the culture vulture. They stole it. So we think the name Catherine is European, or the name Matilda because it's a European name. This another. This is our name. It's our stuff. Thomas Edison was linked to being a black person. Let me phrase that name, Thomas.
But like I said, John James.
Come on, man. John is a family name on both sides of my family. My brother is John. His son is Jake the third. Listen, my granddaddy, Daddy J, was John. We have Johns. My John Henry was my dad's brother. We have Johns on both sides. That is a family name. But what's scary is that's also a biblical name.
And then my thing is this: I think he was my 4th great grandfather. His name was John. For it to be far back there, and they were omitting parts of the Bible during slavery, how would he know about that?
What's the John Henry, the steelworker?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, my uncle
built
named
the
John Henry.
railroads.
Yeah, John Henry. The railroads had been built in 1800. Well, never mind.
but
I mean, listen,
we're
it's-
just asking you to not question us, but question it.
Yeah, if you don't listen, you don't have to believe us. You don't do your research. Ask because there's some people that still have grandparents and I asked my
That
mother.
are still alive.
I asked my mother. I said, "Mom, did Grandma Works ever talk about slavery or anything like that?" She said no. I said, "Well, how could it be possible that Grandma Works would have been born in the 1800s? How?
Ask about family recipes.
How does that get passed
Like,
down?
my
but not-
thing is this: my family, like I said, we fought in the French War, but we are also on the port of Louisiana. Not only do we have Creole traditions, we have Creole food, and some of the stories, just the oral lore of my great grandmother, my grandma's mama, of her hoodoo voodoo, it's still being told. So I don't understand if they could tell those stories. Where are the slave stories?
I'm asking.
Where's the baby that was delivered in the barn?
That's what I'm saying. Listen, and I'm asking anybody who's watching the show, if we're wrong, please leave it in the comments because this is an open discussion. If you have family members that you trace back that are African slaves, I would like to hear about that. I would like to hear about you guys' stories. I'm very interested in that. But make no mistake about it. that does not prove me wrong, because my entire argument is, yes, the slave trade happened. The Atlantic slave trade is real. Slaves were brought here to this country on a boat to be slaves. My point is that not all of us are from African slaves. Some of us were already here. Some of us are even, I'll even go further than that. I believe that the reason reparations with the 40 acres, Field Order 15, I believe that that was them returning
The land.
the land that they took from the natives that were already here. That's number one. Number two, and this may shock a few people, but I also believe that when you hear these stories that the Native Americans were fighting and the blacks were fighting for the South, that's who they were. That was the people that were here. They scared them into thinking like, hey, if you guys don't help protect your land, that those people up north are going to steal it. Why else would a black person fight for slavery?
We're just asking you to think.
I mean,
That, it gave me pause too when I was asked the same questions to actually think, because one thing, and I've said this time and time again, on air, off air, I truly despise our education system in America, because you are taught to regurgitate, not to think.
Yep.
And I am one of those audio visual learners, so I not only have to think it, I have to recall it in a way that I can remember. So my thing is this: if you just sit there and think, if it's not about Egypt and the pyramids, it's about slavery. What happened in between there, and how can a European go to Africa, grab Africans, and teach Africans how to grow and harvest crops that they don't know how to do? Mind you, this is right after before or after Black Plague?
This is after. But
yeah,
but
thing, they didn't even know how to wash their butt, so how are they gonna tell you how to grow?
that's what I'm saying, like, okay, so even with that, because that's a really yes, that's a really good point. It's I want you to really think about this. In order to go get a slave from Africa, then this before the passage, it would take 6 months on a boat, and it'd take you 6 months back.
A year.
How could it be possible that after 6 months of being in chains, that a person got off the boat to be sold, and they looked like John Coffey from the Green Mile?
Or
what were they feeding them?
Or Debo.
Yeah, what were they feeding them?
My thing is, you're chained, packed tight like sardines, barely fed,
defecating yourself,
thrown up, seasick,
everything. Because the story they tell is that black people can't swim. I hope you guys are paying. Yeah, I hope you guys are paying attention to white people put the college up. They have all black swim team, and boy, oh boy,
vicious,
pit bull vicious. I believe that we were here. We're the natives, and by erasing and trying to eradicate every inventor that has invented something in this country that looks like us made something to better this country. Why aren't they building anything from Africa? And when they do tell us about Africa, they lie on Africans and say, oh, those people live in mud huts, it's so poor, they don't have anything over there, this, that, and other.
We want to move to Africa.
That's the bad part. Like, it's a double-edged sword. They're teaching you that this isn't your home, and then at the same time telling you not to go home.
Yeah, there's flies and babies.
Yeah, they always show the children are so sick and nobody can eat, and these it makes zero sense. Africa is not impoverished like they make it seem. That's a lie. Mm-hmm. So they're lying about that. They're definitely lying about our heritage. Like, I refuse to believe that every black person here is from an African slave, because we don't have any slave blood. So that can't be the truth. But we're black and we're from here. All of our family speaks English. The French, Swahili, and German. I all learned this as a grown-up. My mother doesn't speak Swahili or any French. I learned French in school. So let's stop with that. Let's and please, if I'm wrong, not wrong, I'm not gonna be wrong, but if you have another side to this argument, I'm more than willing to hear that. Please leave in the comments. Now, we would be amiss if we did not touch on this. So last night I did an interview with Gregory Hoyt. Shout out to Gregory Hoyt on the breakdown. And we did a live on his YouTube show. We're going to put it up on ours so you guys can see it. And we spoke about former President Donald Trump. I hate saying his name. 45 is scheduled to be arrested Tuesday. Won't he do it? I'm very happy about this because I believe that they're laying the groundwork because these are just misdemeanor charges. So the misdemeanor charges that he's being charged with is the Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen payoff, and it's the mislabeling of money on his taxes. So he listed this as legal expenses when it was actually hush money. Now these charges can be bumped up to a felony if they prove that the money was actually used to cover up a felony. That's the gist of it. But I want you guys to think about this because I said this on the show last night. They're not charging him with this as the end game.
It's just beginning.
This is just beginning. They're setting precedent to say, hey, listen, you can't say we can't charge the president because here we did charge one. So hopefully, everything goes well this week. The DA and Brad, he's pretty good. I hope that he has all his ducks in a row so I can see 45 go to prison. I'm hoping for that.
Anyway, make sure you are not only tuning in, make sure you're following us on our social media platforms.
Yep.
I will start my own channel. I will. I vow. I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. But that's for your Harry Potter people. But I promise I am going to start my own channel. And I am not only bringing you how I feel, what's going on, but I'm also going to open up dialogue because you're not by yourself, okay? This is going to my women, my men, my preteens, my teens. This is going to be a family-friendly channel, but I'm also going to be extremely transparent.
Yeah, because we're being involved in our church.
Yes, we are a part of youth ministry at Living Hope Bible Church in Aurora, Colorado.
Yep.
That also brings up my announcement that we are doing the To Be Continued clothing drive starting April 1st. If you are in the Denver metro area, or if you're not and would like to make a monetary donation, or if you want to mail some stuff in, make sure you leave a comment regarding the clothes drive in the comment section below. We are not only reaching out to our youth for resume building, making sure everyone has the basic necessities for shoes, clothes, church clothes, even though it's come as you are. We want to make sure that when we spring clean our closets, that is going to a good use. And anything that is not donated on the spot will be distributed to all women's children's shelters, as well as the art thrift store, so it can be refurbished and reused.
Yeah. Also, it's going to be financial advisement because as a people, we've got to get better with how we allocate and use our money. So we have a lot of things going on, from the Enlightenment of Mind show with Stacey Royale, Chris Gemini, Jeff, and Miss Nikki, our producer, and Terry. And they're coming on our show. So just give you guys a heads up. The radio show, you guys might want to get with Stacey Royale because I know we've been getting a lot of comments about Stacey Royale, and we've been trying to invite him on our show so that we can do a live. On this live, Omar is penciled in, my brother Tone, and my brother LaRon. So we're going to have a live discussion about not just the politics, but probably more about this whole African lineage.
Also, to my ladies and any fellow listeners out there, if you feel like you have something to add to the conversation, please leave a message in the description box below. We would love to hear from you.
But we're asking the radio show to come on. Stacey is scared.
And we're also trying to keep diversity. Greg, we have reached out to Greg Hoyt.
He's
is
coming.
More than willing. Also, Terry has a different view, as well as Jeff. So it's not just going to be a one-sided conversation.
No.
You know, we don't do that
No,
here.
we don't do that here.
But we are bringing on a plethora of people.
Yep.
Make sure, because I want to start my own thing. You know, it's going to be in the works. But make sure whenever I do post and put it up below, make sure you click and subscribe and keep up with what's going on. As far as the baby, I think he's up. Could you grab him?
I don't know. He's awake.
If you are not following us on our social media platforms, this little muffin that I gave birth to has not only been the light of our lives. I thought I heard him, but I'll show a picture here, but he has definitely created a new way of living that I never would have expected as a first time mom.
He's still sleepy.
Yes, he is 7.5 months old, 20 something pounds, 28 and some change inches long. He's just everything.
And on a somber note, too, I got a message from Aaron Tobert. Shout out to E. On a somber note, Marcellus Harris, aka Pooh. I don't know what happened, but he recently passed away. You know, I had a relationship with his brother Reese. Reese was my guy. Bro was my dude. Shout out to the Harris family. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
And to all of you, we love you. Thank you for continuing to support us. I think we're on year 3 now.
Yes.
Coming up in May will be our vidiversary, I guess.
I like that word.
Our vidiversary. But thank you guys so much. Like I said, we may go back to visual content. Let us know what you prefer.
Yep.
But as always, my name is Mo.
My name is Casey.
And you're watching Better Benefit. Have a great day.
You really going to jail.
Oh my gosh.